Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Is the volume good? Thumbs up. Awesome. The hardest part is over, right? Welcome, everyone, to the first ICS4ICS exercise here at S4. I'm Megan Sanford, Vice President, Chief Product Security Officer for Energy Management at Schneider Electric. I'm also the chair of the ISA Global Cybersecurity Alliance. I'm very happy to be back here at S4. Can we all say that? 2 years ago, I presented the idea of ICS4ICS at S4. ISA GCA has worked with over its 50 member companies and many volunteers. Most of the people in this room, they have done the work. It wasn't me. But we have developed this program and a lot of preparation for the exercise that you all are going to be a part of today, so thank you for that. This is the agenda for today. I will provide a brief ICS4ICS overview and some key points from the ICS4ICS training on the web. We will then conduct the exercise. We will take a break and then finish the exercise. Your input will be needed to help us improve the ICS4ICS processes and future exercises. So please, we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the input. ICS4ICS combined 3 mature processes to improve management of cybersecurity incidents that impact industrial control systems. The incident command system was created in the 1970s, and variations of the process are used in numerous countries. Cybersecurity teams leverage computer incident response processes defined by NIST and other organizations to investigate incidents, minimize the impact of incidents, and provide information needed by leadership that enables them to quickly make decisions that lead to quick resolution of incidents. Industrial control system experts currently manage the technical aspects of many types of incidents, including cybersecurity incidents. Their expertise of their systems enable them to identify alternatives to recover critical business functions they support. ICS4ICS combines these 3 processes and leverages the unique expertise of each group to expedite the response and resolution of cybersecurity incidents. Industrial applications are used to support various aspects of our everyday lives. Electricity that powers our homes, offices, and plants rely on industrial control systems. Water and water sewage also rely on industrial control systems. We have seen how a single cybersecurity incident impacted the regional supply of gasoline that disrupted transportation for numerous states in a single region of the United States. Various gases that power our lives also rely on industrial control systems to produce and deliver gases to consumers. Building control systems are critical to maintain offices and many apartments throughout the world. Manufacturing, chemical, and other plants are completely dependent on industrial control systems. Incident Command System for Industrial Control Systems, ICS4ICS, processes are designed to help all these industries manage incidents to minimize the impact of critical infrastructure services. Nations around the world have developed critical infrastructure protection programs because of increasing threats that can impact their citizens' health, safety, and economies. We are seeing an increased number of cybersecurity incidents that disrupt critical infrastructure. This was demonstrated by the Colonial Pipeline incident, resulting in supply disruption and price increases of fuels for automobiles. There are numerous other incidents that have disrupted critical infrastructure throughout the world. ICS4ICS is designed to improve response capabilities of companies, organizations, and government agencies that coordinate incident response of cybersecurity incidents. Cybersecurity capabilities are deployed to provide multiple layers of protection. There is no single cyber defense measure. There's no silver bullet that can absolutely protect against cyber attacks. We rely on layers of cybersecurity capabilities called defense in depth. The intent is to delay or completely prevent an attack. An attacker must break through numerous layers to successfully attack the environment. These layers include physical security of assets and the components and systems that are used to operate those assets, cybersecurity policies and procedures, including user training. Zones and conduits separate network segments with the protective device. Anti-malware solutions prevent various forms of malware from compromising the environment. Access controls are critical because weak, unauthorized accesses cause numerous cyber attacks. Monitoring and detection helps quickly identify potential attacks so immediate action can be taken to limit their consequence and prevent an event from escalating into an incident. Patching has remained an important measure to prevent known vulnerabilities in software. Even if more than one of these layers of protection fails, the other layers are designed to prevent or limit the impact of attacks. Most organizations have computer incident response capabilities. This includes a plan and staff who are trained and participate in regular exercises to ensure they are ready to respond to a cyber incident. Detection of events is an important aspect of any cybersecurity program. Numerous events are identified by detection tools and log messages from applications, servers, and network devices. A large company probably has millions of events occurring daily. A security operations center analyzes events to identify those that present a potential risk and require further investigation and possibly additional action. The SOC takes immediate actions to contain events to prevent them from causing additional negative consequences. They also eradicate the source of the event and, if necessary, take actions to restore data and systems. A post-incident review is completed to understand how these CERT processes can be improved and to retain evidence from the event. The Security Operations Center will escalate to a leader or executive when an event meets documented criteria. The leadership team has a documented procedure to determine when an event should be declared an incident, along with the list of people authorized to declare an incident. That's a key point. Declaring an incident triggers several processes and commits the company financially and in many other ways, including triggering government reporting. The Security Operations Center continues to perform the CERT steps unless the leadership team instructs them to take other action. This high-level representation of the Purdue model shows how industrial control system components are organized into layers that are isolated with firewalls. The industrial control system is often connected to the company enterprise network by using a DMZ to host components shared by both the enterprise network and the industrial control system. The incident command system is very mature and is used by numerous companies to manage various events like fires, natural disasters, and other industrial incidents. The process is often not used for cyber incidents, though. The incident command system is based on pre-planning, organizing, and training teams, ensuring they have appropriate equipment to respond to incidents. Exercises ensure that all staff are prepared to fill their role and that the incident command process and tools work effectively. An evaluation is completed after each incident and exercise to identify actions to improve ICS4ICS processes. The incident command system is used every day by first responders and is part of the National Incident Management System, also known as NIMS. NIMS was mandated for the U.S. government by Homeland Security Presidential Directive 5, HSPD 5, issued in 2003. The incident command system provides a standard approach. The coordination process and management strategies are the same for all responders, regardless of the type of incident. The system was born from decades of emergency management activities, which makes it very effective. Unity of command allows everyone to know their role and who they report to. Clarity of responsibilities is accomplished because everyone is assigned a role, a title, and a list of tasks. Span of control limits the number of people and tasks a supervisor is reasonably able to manage. Common terminology ensures that everyone speaks the same language. Adaptability means incident command is a very flexible system. It can be used for an incident of any size and complexity. It also can grow or shrink based on the needs of the incident. Planned and unplanned events can be managed by the incident command system. The system ensures there is no duplication of efforts. We don't want multiple parties working on the same task. Accountability is easily achieved since everyone is assigned a specific role, title, task, and duty. Therefore, each person is accountable for their own actions. Accountability during incident operations is essential. The ICS structure will need to abide by company policies and guidelines, as well as any applicable laws and regulations. The Incident Command System has a planning P process to manage all hazards. The planning cycle consists of the detailed steps necessary to guide the ICS4ICS team through the 5 phases of the planning process to develop, disseminate, implement, and adjust an incident action plan based on the incident objectives. The All Hazards Planning Cycle provides a systematic, standardized, and effective approach to organizing response to incidents. After the initial response, the Planning P defines the operational cycle, which is repeated. The Planning P operational cycle likely will be repeated multiple times even as a new shift of staff arrives to man the effort. Planning P provides structure by prescribing the order in which meetings or briefings occur, and identifying the person responsible for collecting incident data and the parties who will make decisions, and defining the actions and work products that are assigned to each of the ICS4ICS teams. We've developed a training video that explains ICS4ICS and the incident planning process. If you have not seen these videos, you can view the training by visiting the ICS4ICS website. You will receive a link to the website after S4.
Slides are not.
I'm going to share information about the ICS4ICS exercise and help everyone understand the exercise scenario. The purpose of the exercise is to help everyone understand the ICS4ICS process that can be used to manage a significant cyber incident. This exercise is designed to demonstrate how ICS4ICS processes are initiated when an event is identified as a possible incident, engage ICS4ICS team members to participate in response efforts, complete the initial assessment to determine if the event will be declared an incident, work to respond to the incident and limit its impact to the business, demonstrate how key components of the ICS4ICS program can manage incident response. We hope that companies will incorporate ICS4ICS program capabilities into their company processes. ICS4ICS is focused on cyber incidents that industrial control system or other critical infrastructure operations. We are performing the exercise as a single company based on assumptions of that company, not the individual companies of the people who are playing the roles of the exercise. I want to briefly review the roles that are part of the exercise. Players are the people on the stage who will fill the roles defined in the ICS4ICS process. The facilitator is my role. I will help provide information and ensure the exercise stays on track to achieve the objectives. Note takers will document the ICS4ICS exercise activities and prepare for feedback that can be used to improve the ICS4ICS processes. Observers, you are in the audience. You will be asked to provide feedback during the hot wash at the end of the exercise. We are conducting a facilitated exercise. There are many different types of exercises, but this is known as a facilitated discussion. It's laid back, it's informal, and we're using this for training. We are recording the exercise and will publish the video in the next week. You will observe the players on stage as they participate in threat briefing and other meetings that are part of ICS4ICS. The exercise is divided into 2 modules, with the first focus on the initial activities that trigger the formation of the ICS4ICS team and initial response activities. The second will focus on how we manage the response to a ransomware extortion attempt and media inquiries. We will conclude this exercise by asking you to participate in the hot wash that will seek your input to improve the ICS4ICS program and future exercises. This exercise is designed to help everyone learn and to improve the ICS4ICS program, processes, and future exercises. This exercise involved multiple companies, so we had to make some assumptions about a fictional company for this exercise. Please accept the assumptions made in the exercise scenario. This is often the first rule of exercises: do not fight the scenario. The purpose of the exercise is to learn and not fix the scenario. We have a limited time for this exercise, so we must accept that not everything can be achieved today. Now, we will discuss the specific scenario that was defined for this exercise. On day 1, DHS CISA alert is released regarding phishing campaign compromising networks and servers in the USA. On day 5, a local radio station has a context and some of the company employees reporting receiving an email with a link to sign up. Many employees report this as a potential phishing attempt. One employee states they click the link. On day 10, employees call facility management to complain about it being too hot in their offices. Facility staff investigate and determine that the sensors are reporting normal temperatures. They contact the HVAC vendor, who agrees to send a person on site. On day 11 at 9:35 a.m., a fire alarm in the building is activated, but fire department determines that there is no fire. On day 11 at 10 a.m., HVAC staff who are on site determine the system has been compromised by malware. The vendor cannot contain or eradicate the malware. On day 11 at 10:15 a.m., ICS analyst for HVAC contacts computer incident response team to report that malware has been detected in the HVAC system. On day 11 at 10:30 a.m., the CERT escalates the event to the CERT director, who is also the ICS4ICS incident commander. At the end of the exercise, we will discuss your feedback related to what were the strengths of the exercise and suggestions to improve the ICS4ICS processes and/or future exercises. Please share your thoughts during the exercise by emailing or texting. Brian will summarize them so we can discuss at the end of the exercise. So grab that number, grab that email, and send us your feedback.
So, yeah, take that from me.
Go ahead. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Body, and I will be your moderator for this exercise. We've developed training videos that explain the incident planning process. If you've not seen these videos, you might feel a little lost, but don't worry. We will do our best to explain things as we go along. To view the training after this exercise, visit the ICS4ICS website. You will receive a link to the website after this exercise.
Hello, my name is Eric Peterson. I'm the ICS control analyst. I was notified on April 18, 2022 at 9:35 a.m. that the temperatures in the office building began to rise. Building maintenance was unable to resolve this situation, so I contacted the HVAC vendor. HVAC personnel arrived on April 18th, 2022 at 10 a.m. and determined that we had been compromised on our systems with some type of malware. The vendor has not been able to contain or eradicate the malware, so he has no solution and not been able to restore our HVAC system. At 10:15 a.m., I contacted the computer incident response team to report that the malware is detected in the HVAC system supporting the building, the data center, and the other industrial control systems in the building. Based on the escalation process, I've contacted the CERT manager, who declared an incident and assigned an incident commander.
Company executive leadership is organized as a crisis management team. They have designated specific people to fill the incident commander or IC role and empowered them with the authority to declare an incident. A secondary or tertiary IC will take the role and assume the authorities if the primary IC is not available or as the incident goes into multiple operational periods. The incident commander is responsible for the overall management of the incident. They will determine the ICS4ICS command and general staff positions necessary to manage the incident. Their primary goals are to ensure life safety, incident stabilization, and environmental preservation is maintained during the team's incident response. After the incident commander identifies who will be part of the ICS4ICS Command and General Staff, admin staff will notify them and pass on response and traveling information.
So my name is Mark Bristow, and I'm the incident commander. My priority is to do an initial assessment with the staff who are on site at the scene and working with them to understand where we are right now and what resources I'm going to need to manage the incident. So I speak with Eric, who's the ICS analyst in this exercise, to understand the current situation and what options we might have to be able to contain or eradicate the malware that's impacting the HVAC system. I get information from Eric, so I can prepare what's called an ICS201 incident briefing form. We'll get more on that in a second. And this is going to help the ICS4ICS team understand the situation. I instruct the ICS analyst to continue to do the work that they were doing with the HVAC vendor to investigate and look for other alternatives to restore operations. And I contact the executive leadership team in the company to let them know that, if they're part of the crisis management team or CMT, what's going on, keep them informed, and any escalations that I might need with the CMT. So only certain company executives and people designated as incident commanders are given the authority in this construct to actually declare an incident. So as the incident commander or IC, I'm going to, number one, determine which ICS4ICS positions I need and see if the executive leaders as part of the crisis management team have recommendations for people to fill those positions. They almost always do. Activate the ICS4ICS positions needed from my perspective for this incident and determine what messages we need to have and keep the crisis management team up to date on the ICS4ICS team's progress as we go through the incident.
The command staff are positions who report directly to the incident commander and support the entire organization. These positions include the public information officer, who is responsible for managing external and internal communications, the safety officer, who is responsible for ensuring the safety of all staff, including those who may be impacted by the incident, and the ICS4ICS team. Legal counsel helps develop contracts that may be needed by the ICS4ICS team, reviews external communications, and any other legal functions. And the liaison officer would interface with external parties like law enforcement agencies. The general staff are section chiefs who also report directly to the incident commander. Each of them lead staff in their sections and are accountable for specific work products. The section chiefs fill any roles that have not been staffed below them. The finance administration section chief is responsible for managing all financial aspects of an incident. Logistics provides all incident support needs such as medical, food, transportation, housing, ordering resources, etc. The planning section chief is responsible for managing all information relevant to the incident response. They collect, evaluate, process, and disseminate information for use by responders at the incident. And the operations section chief is responsible for managing all tactical operations of the incident.
So as incident commander, as I mentioned, it's my job to determine which roles we need, right? So I'm going to need an operations section chief to actually manage the cybersecurity incident response team efforts, right? What you're all thinking of incident response, but that's not the whole picture. That's why ICS4ICS exists, right? I'm going to need to staff some other positions right away, but I may choose as the incident evolves to staff more positions as we go, right? And so I'm going to see based on what's going on. So, but for right now, I'm going to need an admin finance section chief, right? We're going to have to pay for all of this and do accounting, and that needs to start from day one. So that's a priority for me in addition to operations. I'm clearly going to need a planning section chief. It's going to help actually manage this incident and make sure that we're doing everything. And that's going to get data to the operations section chief and help them get what they need for the IR activities. Really important one, I need a public information officer or PIO to manage public relations. If you think you can keep it quiet, you can't. So always be planning for that, right? And then, of course, I need a safety officer. It's control systems people to ensure the safety of the staff in any of the impacted offices, and really importantly, of the ICS4ICS team members themselves, right? First rule of incident response is don't become a victim. Right? So each section chief is going to request some resources for their sections, and they might create a structure below them for some unit leaders to manage sub-teams to accomplish specific tasks or something like that. So, as I mentioned, as the IC, I'm going to answer to the crisis management team or the CMT, right? And typically in a company context, that's going to be the executive leaders of the company, right? The command and general staff that I've activated, though, they report to me, right? And only me. They might come from different parts of the organization. That's why on the graphic, hopefully, you're seeing some dashed lines that show the relationship of their positions and their day jobs, right? But for the purpose of this incident, they report to me, right? Buck stops here. So for example, here the admin finance section chief's day job might be the CFO, but for this incident, they report to me for all matters related to this incident. So after consulting with the CMT, I've appointed the following people to these different positions that we have, right? So the operations section chief is going to be Gonda Lambernick. The planning section chief is going to be Neil Gay. The admin finance section chief is going to be Mike Cheney. The safety officer is going to be Philip Kush. The PIO is going to be Anne-Marie Van Der Herk. And the industrial control system analyst, as we've already heard introduced, is Eric Peterson.
Once the incident commander has a handle on the current situation, she or he will transfer their notes to the first page of the ICS4ICS incident briefing form. They will provide this form to the incoming team members so they can hit the ground running. If there is no time or very limited resources, the ICS4ICS will be handwritten and a sketch freehanded. For this exercise, we've created a formal ICS4ICS form to make it easier for you to read and follow along. You can also use your tablet or cell phone camera to scan the QR code to download the ICS4ICS incident briefing and to copy.
We had a long chat about this.
Yeah. In real incidents, we actually use these to great effect with this caveat. So, but you can do this. This goes to Google Drive, mine. If you want to capture a copy of that, we'll have one for the incident action plan later.
So as the incident commander, if you've chosen to click the QR code, and you should, it's safe, I promise. So I'm going to update the 201 incident briefing form to create an incident name, give it a number, or potentially use the number from the ticketing system if it came from the computer incident response team, as this one did, and put in the date and time, basic logistics that you might overlook. This is why forms are helpful, people. Yep. Right. So I asked the industrial control systems analyst to provide us a visual that will help with the scope of this incident, right? And so the visuals is one thing that is an area where there's a little bit of distinction from traditional incident command system, in my view, right? So in this graphic, right, it's going to show the different things in the facility, et cetera. Normally in like a disaster management, you're going to have like a physical map of the area of the disaster, right? Or if you're like a sector commander, your particular area, right? But for ICS4ICS, right, the logical environment may be just as important or more important than the physical environment. It really kind of all depends what's needed, right? So having some type of picture, though, really helps everyone get on the same page, which is one of the key elements of the ICS4ICS is to make sure everyone has the same understanding. So we might have a logical diagram. If it was impacting multiple buildings, perhaps we'd have a picture of the different buildings. It was impacting multiple buildings over multiple just geographic areas, perhaps we'd have those maps too, right? But you kind of have to figure out what visual suits the scenario and use that to help everyone have that shared understanding. So I'm also going to update the situation summary and health and safety briefing section. And this is to get make sure that we have any health and safety hazards that are documented and give the safety officer here a leg up on what they're going to need to make sure that we're providing PPE or whatever to our personnel as they do the response, right? So that's part of my job as we boot up the incident.
In a large incident, it's possible that a unified command will be necessary for incident management. For example, if a cybersecurity incident causes a fire or spill, representatives from all agencies involved, such as company representatives, responding fire department, EPA, or anybody else would form a unified command, making decisions as a group, and they would designate a single public-facing representative to be the voice of the unified command. In our case, a unified command is not needed, therefore this meeting will not occur. Now that the initial response phase is over, we are entering the circular planning cycle. This phase is continuous and ongoing for the duration of the response. The cycle of planning activities will be repeated based on the chosen operational period. Typically, in a very dynamic situation, the planning P is repeated every 12 hours so the teams can get feedback from the operations folks and still have time to do their work before the next set of planning meetings. In a very low-key incident, an operational period may be every 24 hours. A lap around the planning P is considered one operational period. The current team staffing the ICS4ICS team will have to be relieved after some number of hours so they can get some sleep. The IC has determined the operational period for this incident will be 12 hours, from 0600 to 1800 and 1800 to 0600. At 1800, the current team will brief their replacements and be back by 0600 in the morning to start the next operational period. Now we're into the racetrack of the planning P, and we start with the Incident Command or Unified Command to have a meeting to develop or update objectives. This is also called a strategy meeting. The priorities and objectives will first address life safety needs based on the specific incident. We must ensure the safety of our staff and the communities where we operate. Stabilizing the situation is the next priority, which enables the ICS4ICS team to work the incident in a stable environment and allows the business to stabilize their operations while the ICS4ICS team works to resolve the incident. And the third priority is minimizing adverse environmental impacts from the incident. The ICS4ICS team will work together with the goal of managing the immediate environmental impacts potentially caused by the incident. At this meeting, the objectives are developed and are identified, and the IC determines the following. What are the response priorities? Is it life safety an issue? Is it to get the industrial control systems back online? Is it public information? Or is it something else or some things else? Limitations and constraints of the response. Limitations might be, will the union object to longer hours? Will the local community object to noise after 11 p.m.? A limitation can be anything which can limit response activities. Constraints. What is going to make the response activities impossible? A hurricane is about to strike the city. Heavy rain makes working on electrical devices in the open dangerous. Or severe cold, working outside is out of the question. The local mayor said no matter what, no response activities can take place until the organization makes a fully disclosed public statement about what is happening. Critical Incident Requirements, or CIRs, are identified and delivered to the team. What type of information the incident commander wants to know in the middle of the night versus what type of information can wait until the next scheduled meeting. This is an example of a meeting or briefing room layout. Visual aids are placed on the front wall. All meetings will have a ground rules and agenda visual. The rest of the visuals are dependent on the meeting or the needs of the presenters. Presenters will be lined up in order of their presentation along the sides so they can quickly move up to the front when it is time for their presentation. A flip chart on an easel with markers at the front of the room is helpful for notes and ad hoc items. Attendees' positions will be clearly marked in their seats, desk cards, or by wearing specific position vests. Ground rules are typically the same incident to incident. These are some common ground rules. Silence phones, radios, and pagers unless it involves life safety, at which point take it outside and come back into the meeting when the situation has been resolved. No text messages or emails, again, unless it involves life safety. Take it outside, deal with it, and then come back in. No sidebar conversations. Stick to the agenda. Presenters will be lined up off to the side in order of their presentation so they can quickly get to the front, as in this visual. The planning section chief usually runs the meetings and will call the chiefs by name or position. When presenting, the presenter needs to be up front with the visual aids facing the audience and must speak loud and clearly so that everyone in the meeting can hear. 6, hold all questions, comments, and concerns until after the meeting. The only exception to this is the command and general staff meeting. Questions and concerns must be addressed in this meeting, so every member of the team is on the same page. And finally, number 7, maintain COVID protocol if applicable.
Hello, my name's Neil Gay, and I'm the Planning Section Chief. I facilitate this meeting and typically present draft objectives for the Incident Commander's consideration. The Incident Commander will identify and/or review response priorities, constraints, and incident objectives.
So it's my job as the incident commander to establish incident objectives that drive our incident operations, right? These objectives are used to ensure that everyone in the ICS4ICS organization has clear understanding of what we are trying to do and what needs to be accomplished. So for me, for right now, the top 3 priorities for this incident are going to be, again, life safety, incident stabilization, and property and environmental preservation.
Establishing incident objectives is done using management by objectives, which includes establishing SMART objectives. S for specific, a detailed explanation of what we want to accomplish. M, measurable, what metrics are we going to use to confirm we've met the objective. A, achievable, the task at hand must be possible. R, relevant, the objective must help solve the problem. And T, time-bound. We must set up a realistic time frame to accomplish the tasks necessary to meet our objectives.
So I developed these objectives for the incident with input from others and documented into that ICS 201 incident briefing form we talked about earlier, right? We're going to review these objectives at the next meeting, and I'll update the objectives based on as the incident changes, right? Things change, objectives change.
The Command and General Staff meeting may be the only time during this operational period when all members of the team are in the same room. This is the time for the IC, Command Staff, and the General Staff, who are the section chiefs, to ask questions. This meeting is an open environment where staff can air dirty laundry and ask questions to clear the air. The IC defines the length of the operational period that will determine when this meeting will reoccur, which also determines the timing for the other Planning P meetings. The Planning Section Chief will lead this meeting. Normally, this meeting will be repeated on the established 12-hour cycle, but the Planning Section Chief may schedule the meetings more frequently or schedule ad hoc meetings as requested by the IC. The IC establishes the organization and reminds section chiefs that they are responsible for performing actions within their section for positions that have not been staffed.
As the Planning Section Chief, I'm facilitating this Command and General Staff meeting. For our incident, we'll have at least one Command and General Staff meeting every operational period. The IC, Mark, decided on a 12-hour operational period, so I'll schedule additional Command and General Staff meetings if the IC requests them. This is the time for the Command and General Staff to ask any questions. The goal of the meeting is to ensure that this team agrees and can begin performing their assigned functions. There must be no unanswered questions or ambiguity after this meeting. Please review the ground rules on the board, which apply to all meetings. I'll start an ICS 233 Incident Open Action Tracker using a blank flip chart on an easel up front. Mark, as the IC, would you like to make any opening statements or provide additional information?
Thanks, Neil, and thanks everyone for coming and responding to this incident. As Neil mentioned, it is critical that we all leave this meeting with shared understanding of what's going on. So if anyone has any questions or concerns, or you're not sure about anything we talk about here, voice them now so that we're on the same page as we go out for the next operational period. Thanks.
I've posted a meeting schedule on the board using an informal ICS 230 meeting schedule form. You hear a lot of forms today. All of them are not available by QR codes, but if you go to the FEMA website and look up any ICS form, you're going to find it. That's the value of having all these forms already pre-done for you.
And they're free.
I've also posted multiple copies around the incident command post to ensure the Command and General Staff see it. When setting the meeting schedule, the timing between meetings must allow enough time for the staff to complete their work assignments and have their products ready for the next upcoming meeting. I've also started an ICS 233 Incident Open Action Tracker. You see an example on the board. I'm responsible for maintaining this actions tracker and typically utilize a documentation unit leader to assist me in updating and/or developing it. I will ensure all Command and General Staff are prepared to discuss their assigned tasks or actions during the Command and General Staff and planning meetings. When it's completed, I'll duplicate the form and get copies to the Command and General Staff. It's also going to be posted on a status board located at the Incident Command post.
So this is our initial ICS4ICS org chart. I didn't activate several positions, and we'll decide later if we actually need them as the incident progresses. Please be prepared to recommend positions you believe should be added to this chart. In the meantime, the responsibility for unstaffed positions are going to fall to the section chief that those roll up to. So Ganda, you're going to have to represent all the positions in your operations section until we fill people to fill those positions. These are the objectives that we set out to drive our work, right? And again, it's critical that we have clear understanding of all these objectives. So if you have questions, please ask them, right? So number one is going to be the safety of our people in our facilities and the people working in the ICS4ICS team. Philip, as the safety officer, this is going to be your primary focus, and the entire ICS4ICS team is going to be there to support you to make sure that we have a safe response effort. Managing media and public relations is also incredibly critical, right? So Anne-Marie, as the public information officer, this is going to be your primary focus. The entire team is going to make themselves and the information that they have available to help you form that messaging strategy. We need to make sure that we have that proper relationship with our stakeholders, right? And so I'm going to be performing the role of the liaison officer who's going to be going out working with other stakeholders, including the crisis management team, to ensure they have all the information that they need to know, not what they think they need to know, to quickly resolve the incident and pass other information on to other stakeholders like investor relations. It's an important objective to also determine, how we're going to actually, fix the incidents, right? We need to contain, mitigate, and eradicate this malware that's causing incidents. So, Ganda, as the operations section chief, this will be the core of your effort.
As the planning section chief, I facilitate the command and general staff meeting. For our incident, we'll only have one command and general staff meeting per operational period, but in a real incident, the IC incident commander may request the planning section chief schedule more of these meetings. This may be the only time during the current operational period when all members of the team are in the same room. This is the time to ask any questions the IC might need to clarify. There must be no unanswered questions or ambiguity after this meeting. We also set the meeting schedule for today and the incident duration, and I'll start an ICS 233 incident open action tracker.
My name is Mike Cheney, and I am the finance section chief. Mark, I would like to ask you as incident commander, what is the spending limit for this incident?
Thanks, Mike. So as the IC, I'm going to set a spending limit that matches the delegation of authority that I have, which is $500,000. So please make sure you work with the other section chiefs to develop a proposed budget for this incident. And if we need additional funding that exceeds my delegation of authority, I'll go back to the CMT and get that authorization.
My name is Anne-Marie Vandenherk. I am the Public Information Officer. I need to know if I have the IC's permission to prepare and release public media messages and make statements without clearing each media contact with you first. I will work with corporate public affairs on messaging, and I will obtain the appropriate approvals before issuing any messages. I will share all communications with this team at the next meeting.
So thanks, Anne-Marie. Yeah, I approve you of developing those communications without getting additional approval from myself, as long as you get approval from corporate public affairs for those messages. Please, though, make sure that you disseminate that information, as you mentioned, to the entire team so they can make use of that information as well. So at this meeting, so I'm going to be briefing everybody kind of on the length of the operational period, the objectives, et cetera, right, and the org chart, right? So we already set it for 12 hours. This is going to be the operational period, and then we already talked about how the organization is going to be set up, and then how the resources are going to flow, right? So, for example, this would be the time when section chiefs might propose to create sub-teams, that kind of stuff. We would have that conversation at this meeting and incorporate it as appropriate.
This is a block of time specifically for the operations section chief to prepare for the tactics meeting. The operations section chief creates a draft tactical plan and orders any personnel and equipment that are immediately necessary for ongoing response. The ICS 213 resource request form is used to request those resources. During this time, the operations section chief will develop strategies to minimize the impact and ultimately resolve the incident. They will also define the structure of the operations section into groups, teams, and task forces. The operations section chief also prepares the ICS 215 operational planning worksheet that defines the number of available and required resources during the next operational period. They will get help from the resources unit leader or, in the absence of one, from the planning section chief. The safety officer shadows the operations section chief and prepares the ICS 215A, the incident action plan safety analysis form, to identify and mitigate possible safety concerns, if any exist, in operations plan.
So my name is Gonda, and I'm the operations section chief. I'm going to be preparing for this tactics meeting, and I have a block of time to understand what I need in terms of resources on top of the existing team.
And my name is Philip. I'm the safety officer, and among other tasks, I will be shadowing my operations section chief and looking over her shoulder. And as she comes up with her tactics plan, I will come up with my counters to why certain actions could be dangerous, and I have to come up with mitigative techniques for those actions. And I will secure those mitigating techniques on ICS 215 Alpha, which is the operational safety analysis form.
This meeting is managed by the operations section chief. She will present her draft tactical plan and garner support from the safety officer. The purpose of this meeting is to sell the plan and to secure support from the planning section chief, the logistics section chief, and the finance administration section chief. The safety officer is also present to review any safety concerns along with ways to mitigate those hazards. After seeing the draft tactical plan, the safety officer may submit ICS413 resource request forms for any additional safety resources needed. The resource unit leader, if staffed, represents a planning section at the tactics meeting. If there is no resource unit leader, the planning section chief joins the meeting to fill the resource unit leader role. The meeting is deliberately kept small to ensure it is an effective tactics meeting because it helps prevent major revisions from occurring later in the process. A common understanding, agreement, and situational awareness can avoid disagreement during the later phases of the planning cycle. This is very important. The liaison officer and the public information officer may attend if they've identified an issue that may possibly affect the strategies and tactics. For example, a government representative communicates to the logistics officer that they will no longer participate in this incident because they no longer see value in participation. But this organization was part of operations draft tactical plan. Other factors that might require the public information officer to participate might be that we become aware of community concerns, media sensitivity, or other issues that require public relations efforts. The incident commander is never invited to this meeting and may be performing other work with the crisis management team.
So as the operations section chief, I developed a draft tactical plan. Please take a minute to review the plan if you can. And by the end of this meeting, I will ask the following people to confirm their support for the plan. Those people include the planning section chief, the logistics section chief, the finance or admin section chief, and of course the safety officer. I want to ensure we have sufficient resources for this incident, so I begin submitting ICS413 resource requests to obtain the resources I needed to respond to this incident on top of this team of one currently.
Since we don't have a resource unit leader, I'll present the resource status. Operations has identified a need for 5 resources. We currently have 2, and the operations section chief has submitted the appropriate ICS413 resource requests for the remaining 3.
Safety officer, me. While shadowing the operations section chief preparing for the tactics meeting, I've identified some hazards or risks and provided some mitigations as shown here on the ICS215A form. We will require all staff to work in pairs and have security staff visit every 15 minutes. I've submitted this ICS213 general message to the incident commander, asking if the company can provide security to check on our responders, and provide physical building perimeter security. We have brought a volunteer EMS truck to the location that is on standby.
So Michael, as the admin and finance section chief, do you see any issues with obtaining the funding for additional resources that I will be requesting?
The incident commander authorized $500,000 for this incident. I will develop a budget based on an approved expenses and report any project changes in the budget forecast at future meetings. Please get me your ICS413 resource requests as soon as possible.
The public around the impacted offices don't appear to be aware of the situation yet. The media contacted our public relations office and is seeking information about the incident. I'm drafting a press release which will be approved by the corporate public relations and then distributed. The incident commander approved my plan to issue public messages without additional approval by him. I've informed the media person who inquired about our plan to have a press release shortly.
Based on the current status of the incident, I've identified the need for 2 additional teams, also known as divisions. One will be the HVAC mitigation team, where we have 1 person on scene, but need another person for the next operational period. And the other division is the industrial control system repair team. There's currently 1 person working, so 2 more are needed to provide relief for the additional operational periods. I updated the ICS215 form to identify where the units will report and by what time they should be working. I will submit an ICS213 resource request form for these additional resources. I want to confirm that all of you support the draft tactical plan. Mike, as the finance admin section chief, do you support the tactical plan, or do you have any other questions or feedback for me before you can approve?
I support the draft tactical plan.
Neil, as the planning section chief, do you support the draft plan? And do you have any feedback, maybe?
I'd like to understand if you believe sufficient staff have been added to the operations section for the next operational period. In the absence of a resource unit leader, I'll let you know of any resource changes.
Well, obviously, this is an evolving situation, so I've staffed the team based on what I know now and immediate actions that I believe need to be taken. I will work with my team to determine what additional roles will need to be developed and staffed and by when.
Okay. I support the draft tactical plan.
Thank you. And Philip, as the safety officer, do you support the draft tactical plan or do you have any other questions?
As long as my suggestions about mitigation are implied, I support the draft tactical plan.
Well, now that everybody has signed off, or the planning section, admin and finance section chiefs and the safety officer have agreed to the tactical plan, I will request resources using this ICS4ICS resource request form and submit it to the finance administration section chief at the direction of the incident commander.
In the absence of the logistics section chief, the incident commander has requested that I take the steps to secure the resources you've ordered in your ICS213 resource request.
So now that concludes the tactical meeting.
During this block of time, the incident commander may informally meet with team members and stakeholders to make sure everyone is on the same page. The IC makes sure the command and general staff members exchange information about the proposed plan to ensure that all members are able to support the plan when presented at the planning meeting. All conflicts must be resolved or mitigated prior to the actual planning meeting. During this time frame, the operations section chief will review the strategies, tactics, and organization. The ICS215 operational planning worksheet must be finalized, and the operations section chief must coordinate and work with other team members involved in or affected by the plan. The safety officer must complete the ICS215A, the incident action plan safety analysis, and deliver to the planning section in sufficient time for the planning section chief to prepare a display version for the planning meeting. The planning section chief ensures the material, intelligence, resources, displays, and anything else requested that will be used or discussed in the planning meeting are prepared, displayed, and ready for presentation during this meeting. These preparations include posting the agenda, incident objectives, an updated map, an ICS215, an ICS215A, and any other forms requested by the command and general staff. This meeting brings together all ICS4ICS and cooperating agency team members to review the plan and obtain the support for the plan. The draft tactical plan was presented at the tactics meeting and support was garnered from those present. Support for the plan at the planning meeting should just be a confirmation that everyone is working from the same plan. Agency representatives are invited to attend so they can see the team's vision for handling the incident.
Our current situation is that the ICS analysts and the CERT are working together on isolating and containing the malware and determining the root cause.
I'll review the incident objectives so everyone's clear on what we're fighting. Ensure the safety of the building occupants, ensure the safety of response personnel, maintain proper relationships with the press and media, and provide any necessary updates that they request. Maintain proper relationships with the stakeholders and ensure adequate and timely updates and proper addressing of the stakeholders' interests. And finally, determine incident mitigation, eradication, course of actions, and status.
I confirm that those objectives are still valid.
So based on the ICS215 operational planning worksheet, we still actually need 2 additional divisions. The division Bravo will be the HVAC mitigation and division. The second additional division, Charlie, will be there for ICS repair. And the division that we currently already have working on the malware is Division Alpha.
As the safety officer, I reviewed the hazards or risks and provided some mitigations on the ICS215 Alpha form. We will require all staff to work in pairs and have security staff visit every 15 minutes. We have brought a volunteer EMS truck to the location that is on standby.
I've prepared a budget for the upcoming operational period based on the submitted ICS213 resource requests, and we are still well within our fiscal constraints. The proposed plan fits within our fiscal constraints.
Working with Corporate Public Affairs, I have released a media brief in an attempt to prevent rumors from spreading. Based on feedback, it seems to be working.
I will now go around the room and ask each member of the command and general staff if they support the operational plan as presented by the operations section chief. Each member responds with, "I support the plan as presented." Operations and I worked with each of you prior to this meeting, so your support should be just a formality. Admin Finance Section Chief, do you support the plan as presented?
I support the plan as presented.
Safety Officer, Philip, do you support the plan as presented?
I support the plan as presented.
Public Information Officer, Anne Marie, do you support the plan as presented?
Yes, I support the plan as presented.
Operations Chief, Ganda, as a formality, do you support the plan that you presented?
Yeah, I still support my own plan as I've presented it.
Thank you. Please get me your ICS4ICS as soon as possible. As the Planning Section Chief, I support the plan as presented. And now that the Command and General Staff have responded, I ask the Incident Commander, Mark, if he approves the plan.
I suppose I approve the plan as presented.
Now that the plan has been approved by the Incident Commander, please submit all documents and attachments for the Incident Action Plan to the Planning Section Chief within 2 hours. Please get everything to me by the deadline so that I can complete the Incident Action Plan and the Incident Commander can review and approve it.
Thanks, team, for all your great work and this great plan. As mentioned, we'll be working in 12-hour shifts, to continue working the incident around the clock. So make sure to have to continue working the incident until your relief comes in the next operational period. Please do let me know immediately, though, if any of you or any of your staff have to leave for health or safety reasons. I'd like to be informed immediately if that occurs.
I formally adjourn this meeting.
Command and General staff members and appropriate unit leaders who have deliverables needed to complete the Incident Action Plan, finalize their products, and provide their completed document or documents and products to Planning Section Chief before the deadline given at the planning meeting. The Planning Section Chief assembles the Incident Action Plan components and personally checks for clarity and completeness. The Incident Action Plan covers every aspect of the response for the duration of the upcoming operational period, including medical plan, communications plan, operations, safety, stakeholder engagement, public information requirements, etc. The ICS204 is the assignment list form, the meat and potatoes of this entire planning process. This form will be prepared for each division or group supervisor, and it will list individual assignments for their respective team members. The plan must be completed and duplicated with enough time to hand out copies of the IAP at the operations period briefing. This is the ICS204 assignment list. Work assignments as shown on the ICS204 were based on the ICS215 operational planning worksheet. The ICS204 assignment list is a collective effort with different blocks prepared by different members of the ICS4ICS team. The Operations Section Chief prepares the main header and the work assignment sections as shown here. Since we do not have a resource unit leader, it falls on the Planning Section Chief to prepare the assigned resources block. And the Planning Section Chief asked the IC and command staff if they had any special instructions, and they're documented here. The Public Information Officer provided instructions about media contact, and the Safety Officer provides safety tips. Since we do not have a Logistics Section Chief, it falls on the Incident Commander or their designee to complete this section with contact information for key people. This section would normally be completed by the Communications Unit Leader or the Logistics Section Chief if we had one of those roles staffed. The Planning Section Chief will facilitate this meeting. This is where the Incident Action Plan is presented to the team and responders. The IAP must be completed, approved, and duplicated prior to the start of this briefing. The operational period briefing communicates the decisions, planning, and preparation to the tactical supervisors. The briefing must be complete and efficient so the responders feel they are executing a logical, safe, and well-thought-out plan. In a real incident, the tactical supervisors would be staff in the operations section. This briefing highlights all important components of the IAP and should be focused, relevant, and directed towards the operations personnel who will be implementing the Incident Action Plan. Specific operations section tactical supervisors attend this operational period briefing so they can give out assignments to their teams. Hey, trust us, this one's okay. Again, you can use your tablet, you can use your cell phone, take a picture of this, you'll download a copy of the IAP, which is one of the handouts that we have provided for you there.
I'm responsible for compiling the incident information from the other team members and creating the Incident Action Plan. The planning process results in an Incident Action Plan, or IAP. An IAP is created for each operational period. The IAP communicates the incident objectives and the tactics that will be used to manage the incident during the operational period. The IAP is generated for the ICS4ICS team, cooperating agencies, and the affected company. Our incident's small, therefore we didn't need or include every incident command system form in our incident action plan. The forms are designed to be used for small incidents as they scale all the way up to large incidents, so the form list may change. As the incident expands or contracts, the incident action plan will also expand or contract. Here's the cover sheet, which includes the incident name, the operational period it covers, a signature line for the incident commander's approval, and the logo of the team, the agency we are working for, as well as any cooperating agencies' logos. ICS 202 Incident Objectives describes the basic incident strategy, incident objectives, commands, emphasis, or priorities, and safety considerations for use during the next operational period. This primary audience for this form is all supervisory personnel at the section, branch, division, group, and unit levels. ICS 203 Organization Assignment List, which provides ICS4ICS personnel with information on the units that are currently activated and the names of personnel staffing each position or unit. Like the ICS 202, the primary audience for this form is all supervisory personnel at the section, branch, division, group, and/or unit levels. The ICS 204 assignment list informs division and group supervisors of incident assignments. A separate ICS 204 will need to be prepared for each assignment captured on the ICS 215 and/or the ICS 215 Alpha. Division and group supervisors who will pass on assignments to their subordinates are the primary audience for this form. ICS 205 Alpha Communications List records methods of contact for incident personnel. This form could also have radio frequencies or any methods, email addresses, any way that you're going to need to communicate during the operational period. The audience for this form is the entire ICS4ICS team and cooperating agencies, as this tells them how to contact supervisors or anyone where you may need assistance. ICS 207 Incident Organization Chart provides a visual chart depicting the organization position assignments for the incident. This form provides the entire ICS4ICS team, cooperating agencies, and the crisis management team a visual overview of the response organization that's put in play. ICS 208 Safety Message or Plan outlines safety messages, priorities, and key command, emphasis, decisions, or directions, safety hazards and/or specific precautions to be observed during this operational period. The primary audience for this form are all ICS4ICS team members and responders from cooperating agencies. ICS 214 Activity Logs records details of notable activities at any incident command system level, including single resources, equipment, task forces, etc. These logs provide basic incident activity documentation and a reference for any after-action report. They're also going to be really good to help you decide what happened if something goes wrong along the way. You have good documentation of what went on. Every team member is required to initiate and maintain one for each operational period or for the duration of the incident. It is to be turned in to the planning section chief before demobilizing.
At the conclusion of the operational period briefing and breakout sessions, resources travel to their assigned work locations. An important step once they arrive at their work locations is for each to meet face-to-face with the individual being relieved to receive a clear, current, detailed briefing of conditions at their assigned work location. Command and general staff members check in with their staff to check on progress, review any issues or concerns with an emphasis on solving those that arise, and they also prepare for their upcoming meetings. Assessment is an ongoing, continuing process to help adjust current operations as appropriate or required and to help plan the future operations needed to meet the incident objectives. Resources begin their work assignments as outlined in the incident action plan. Strike team and task force leaders or single resource bosses give assignments to the people working for them. Progress and recommended changes in actions or resources such as kind, type, and quantity are passed on to the next level of supervision. These recommendations are then incorporated into the planning process for the next operational period.
So I want to assess how we're doing during the last operational cycle so I can make changes to improve our performance. I'm going to meet with various people asking these kind of key questions. What's working or not working? I'm going to ask the operations section chief to interview division and group supervisors and get their feedback. And then I'm going to also ask the general staff to meet with their staff to assess their operations. With the feedback from the command and general staff, I'm going to determine if there's need to update or change our incident objectives or strategies or team compositions. So the incident hasn't been fixed, so we're going to start the planning P again. Yay. All right. The assessment started previously, it was carried over, and if there's any changes that we need to make, we're going to have another command and general staff meeting to discuss those changes or go on to prepare for the tactics meeting.
We will take a 10-minute break.